Hey everyone, it's your girl Amanda Schaefer here, and it's time once again for another Jelly Side Up review. Okay, let's jump right in. First we have A Piece of My Heart. As soon as I heard that title, I immediately thought of that song by Janis Joplin, which is obviously A Piece of My Heart, but it's got pizza in the title. Okay, anyway. In this one we meet Amy, and she's played by Denise Nickerson, excuse me. And we all know her as Violet Beauregarde from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Anyway, Amy asks Bert on a lot of dates, and it involves a lot of cooking. Well, first I should say that Bert was encouraged by Patty to go out with Amy. But things go downhill when we find out that Amy's cooking is hazardous for Bert's health. And Patty and Jeremy are telling Bert, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to break up with her. But Brer Bear, however, keeps saying, oh no, you're gonna end up single, divorced, and lonely again. And what does Bert do? He eventually does pluck up the courage to break up with Amy, especially since he put his safety first. Like Patty said, you prioritized your safety. After all, it's better to be safe than sorry, am I right? Elsewhere, Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Chad notice an egg that fell. And it's an eagle egg. While they wanted to look after the little thing, they had to keep it away from Ray. But eventually he did find out about it. And you know what they say? If you find something fallen on the ground, like a little egg that fell from a nest, you're gonna have to do something about it. You can't just you can't just hide it. You're gonna have to let the professionals handle it. So yeah, we carry on from there. Alright. Not much to say on this. Alright, what did I say my favorite part was for this one? Ray's dance. And for those wondering, Ray actually put on the same costume he wore in Where's Charlie when he was pretending to be his Aunt Donna Lucia. And that dance he did was the exact same way as the hula dance in The Lion King, when Timon put on a hula skirt and he did that dance to distract the hyenas. Oh my god, I was laughing so hard. That part in The Lion King never fails to make me laugh. And that dance in this installment, oh my god, I could not stop laughing. Alright, next up we have Lemon Meringue Pie. And in this one, we see Freddie Highmore. And a lot of us know him as Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, which is a remake of the 1971 classic. This one is done by Tim Burton. Anyway, Freddie is a friend of Chad and Jeremy's here. And all of a sudden, Brer Bear and Brer Rabbit can't get enough of these lemon meringue pies that Freddie makes. Next thing you know, it comes to the point where they seem to be taking his cooking for granted. That is never a good idea, taking things for granted. Oh, and of course, Freddie also mentioned this other show that he was part of, The Good Doctor, where he plays an autistic doctor. And my mom has watched that show, and she thought it was really good. Okay, so that's one part. Elsewhere, Patty, Bert, and Brer Fox meet Ernie Weeks, and he's played by Jim Varney, who we all know was the voice of Slinky Dog in Toy Story 1 and 2, until he passed on in 2000, and he was recasted by Blake Clark, who did Slinky in the rest of the Toy Story films, including shorts and specials and such. Here, they're on the set of a show called Weird But True, and Ernie said something about looking for the Headless Horseman. Oh, and I should point out Ray was there too. First time since Headless Horse Meat that they go hunting for the Headless Horseman. But what do they find out? Fake. Totally fake. That is until the real Headless Horseman showed up. Uh-oh. They had to run for their lives. And we all know what he does. Once he sees you, he's going to try to chop off your head and wear it as his own. And as Patty said to Ernie, your #1 fan is now your #1 protester. Anyway, favorite part of this one? Apology to Freddy. In other words, Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear apologized to Freddy for taking his cooking for granted and such. But luckily, Freddy forgave them. And that's always nice to forgive. Alright, and last but not least for now, we have Rest in Peas. Starting off in this one, Chad had a terrible nightmare. He tells Jeremy what happened, and it almost looks like it's starting to come true. What would you do if you had a bad dream and you start to fear it's gonna come true? That's never happened to me, thank goodness. Every time I have a bad dream and I talk about it, I never believe that it comes true. It's all just the imagination. Sometimes you don't know what your brain is doing when you are falling asleep. Elsewhere, Ray finds out that there's a new Wizard of Oz exhibit in the Great Movie Ride. Well, actually, that's always been there. I rode the Great Movie Ride when I first went to Disney, and I was never a big fan of it. Some parts kind of, left a bad taste in my mouth. I did like some of it, though. I liked the Mary Poppins part, and of course the Wizard of Oz part was great. So anyway, this guy by the name of Michael Bibble, and he's played by a guy by the name of Scott Hendry, and he's not very famous. But for those curious, as a matter of fact, he was actually in a stage adaptation of Where's Charlie, which obviously Ray was part of the movie. But in Scott's case, he actually played Charlie in the stage version, and there actually is a tape out there of that stage adaptation that Scott was part of. And it does exist, for those wondering. So once again, as I said, you won't find him on any form of social media or on the internet. I tried looking him up on Google, and I didn't see him. And when I was told I won't find him, I was like, no wonder I couldn't find him. So anyway, Michael says to Ray, you can move into this exhibit immediately. And it seems like Ray has to leave Splash Mountain. He decided to live there, but instead we get somebody else who lives in this part. And it's none other than his co-star Judy Garland, who played Dorothy, and we all know that. And as a result, Ray was able to stay on Splash Mountain. Boy. First Chad almost leaves, Patty almost leaves, Bert almost leaves, and now Ray. Oh, and Jeremy too, I forgot about that. Yikes. And I should point out that we also got a visit, or I should say appearance, from one of Mickey Mouse's friends, and that being Goofy. I should point out, my brother does a really good impression of Goofy's laugh. He even did it for Goofy himself during our last trip to Disney. And Goofy loved it. Anyway, let me get into my favorite part of this one. And I said Goofy's yell. Both times that Goofy yelled, oh my god. I always laugh whenever he yells. Okay, folks, that about wraps up this review, and I know for sure there's going to be more installments coming soon, and once the next set of 3 are out, once again, I'll be talking about them and reviewing them and such, and yeah, you know the drill by now. So that's all the time that we have. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.